So I've been in like creative hobbies and in like the marketing adjacent world pretty much since childhood. But I didn't really realize that those were anything but hobbies. Anytime that you would express like, oh, I wanted to like do something creative, everybody's always like, you want to be an art teacher. And there was nothing like marketing related or Super Bowl commercials or anything of that nature that was like a possibility. And I actually had a friend in college. I was designing Tumblr themes, like just for shits and giggles. And a friend of mine was like, oh, I didn't know you were like interested in graphic design. And I was studying international relations at the time in college, thinking I was going to go to law school, which was ironic in and of itself because with my grades, I would have never. But
I feel that.
Yeah. But he was like, yeah, I think you should consider like a creative career. Have you heard of portfolio school? And I obviously hadn't. And even to this day in the industry, it's very like hush-hush, or you hear it from somebody you know, but it's not really a widely advertised program like a university program is. And so I applied to a bunch of schools all across the country and the world and got into the Creative Circus, which at the time was one of the top programs for advertising. Thought I was going to be a copywriter. Plot twist, I'm an art director. And decided to pursue 2 years of like building a book or a portfolio. And what does that how does a concept extend into, a billboard or an influencer campaign or a Super Bowl commercial, or how does an idea then extend into all these different executions and be connected? And so I think portfolio school for me and for a lot of my peers unlocked like this gift that we had for creative storytelling, as opposed to actually teaching us how to be that, because to a certain extent in this industry, you either have it or you don't. Yeah. And so after portfolio school, while I was still in the program, I was getting job offers from Cartier and VaynerMedia. I was paying my bills as a content creator. So I was establishing like a network of marketers that then were offering me jobs and things like that. But I didn't want to go to a big agency. I didn't want to work for a big company because I knew I would be there in the same junior art director role like 3 years later. And I wanted to be just a little further along and kind of get to a certain place in my career. So I accepted a job in New York in a luxury bridal label. I was working for a celebrity designer and also like a really well-known creative director in the bridal space. It's a startup. We had like 3 people that had some remote form of training professionally when it comes to creative. And so I was catapulted into these rooms where I'm sitting next to the CEO and we're talking about ideas and we're designing runway sets and we're like picking out playlists for a fashion show, and we're with the product and design team figuring out how do you like create a photo shoot that shows off details of this dress. So I was getting so much experience that I would have never gotten at like a Droga or a Wyden or a big agency, like no shade, no tea. I just wouldn't have gotten that past like a web banner design thing. So it was a very like Devil Wears Prada traumatizing type of chapter, but at the same time, it was one of the best experiences because there was so much opportunity and such a small team, so much to do. And so from there, I left and I started freelancing and working for some of these companies that I was getting offered jobs from as an independent contractor, and began working more robustly with personal brands and public figures and advising, like, how do you market a public figure or a person of influence as a product, the way we would market a brand or a CPG company or, SaaS, what have you. And that's kind of how I met my co-founder. I was actually consulting for her. And then through us working together, she was like, do you want to start an agency? And I was like, do I want to start an agency? I guess. So that's how we started a creative house. And my co-founder is amazing. She's a product developer. So we kind of have like the product side of things that I think a lot of agencies do lack and kind of rely on the client a little too much to supply that information. And she's super knowledgeable about operations and supply chain and like those kinds of things that are important to marketing. And then I'm on the creative side of things. So that's kind of like a little bit of my slightly untraditional journey to getting where I am now.